A hiker's live stream captures a chilling scene in the remote and rugged wilderness of Mount Solitude. Alex, a popular and adventurous vlogger, sets out to capture the raw beauty of nature through his live streams. As Alex navigates, while speaking to his viewers, filming his steps in the treacherous cliffs, a fatal slip causes a severe fall, sending him tumbling down into a deep, hidden ravine. Flung from Alex's grip, the phone lands first, precariously on an outcropping above, its camera still recording, capturing a twisted cinematic view of the scene below. As the sun dips below the horizons, golden glow over the jagged landscape, viewers on the live stream are treated to an increasingly haunting sight. Alex, crumpled and injured, lies just out of reach, screaming desperately for help. His cries echo through the desolate wilderness, but there's no one to answer. The phone continues to record every agonizing second of Alex's struggle. He shifts, groaning painfully, trying to pull himself toward the ledge, his eyes darting around in fear as darkness creeps in. The live chat is in chaos, viewers sending frantic messages, pleading for someone to come to his rescue. But as the screen darkens, Alex's voice grows weaker, until finally his cries are replaced by a heavy, chilling silence. The phone, still perched on the outcropping, captures the haunting quiet of the night. Minutes tick by, each one amplifying the dread felt by the helpless viewers who are left watching a seemingly empty screen, hoping to see some movement, some sign of life. Then, from the depths of the darkness, a soft rustle is heard. The faint sound of rocks shifting. Suddenly, a shape moves at the edge of the screen, its silhouette too obscure to identify, but its presence unmistakable. It stands just beyond the reach of the camera's light, watching, its outline unmistakable even at night. A large, lone wolf stares intently at Alex. The animal's movements are slow, deliberate. The viewers, transfixed in horror, watch as the wolf prowls closer. The chat falls silent as the wolf lowers its head, sniffing the air, edging nearer to Alex, unable to defend himself. Just as the wolf's form fills the screen inches from Alex, then, in a final chilling frame, the wolf's eyes lock directly into the camera before the screen plunges into darkness. Connection lost. The last haunting words linger on screen, leaving Alex's followers with nothing but dread.
The Art of Deception, a day in the life of the devil's baby mama. The underworld's twilight cast a dim glow over the infernal palace. Deep within its twisting halls, Lilith Nocturne, eternal consort and the devil's baby mama, relaxed on a throne of obsidian. Her fiery red hair and her piercing eyes glinted with a mix of mischief and cunning. She had spent centuries perfecting her role as the devil's most trusted companion, but even the most trusted have their secrets. This was one of those secret nights. Lilith had been seeing someone, a rebellious demon named Azrael, a minor player in the hierarchy, but charming in ways that Lucifer had long since ceased to be. Their affair was risky, but Lilith lived for the thrill. Tonight, however, she would have to cover her tracks. Just then, as the great iron doors of the throne room opened, the air suddenly thickened with the oppressive heat of Lucifer's presence. He stepped in, his towering form radiating authority, his eyes like twin furnaces, absolutely fixed on her. "Lilith," he said, his voice a deep rumble that could shake mountains. "I've been hearing whispers." She tilted her head, feigning innocence. Whispers, my love. You know how demons gossip. What mischiefs have they spun now? Lucifer's gaze narrowed. Azrael, they say you've been meeting with him in secret. Lilith laughed, a cold sound that filled the room. Azrael, that insolent little creature? You know I'd never lower myself to such company. His eyes remained locked on hers, searching for any hint of deceit. Lilith leaned forward, her expression softening. Lucifer, she said, regaining her voice. Have I not been by your side for millennia? Through war, rebellion, and exile? You know better than to believe the jealous ramblings of those constituents of demon you have. The devil hesitated, his fiery aura slightly dimming. Perhaps, he muttered as suspicion lingered in his tone. Sensing his doubt, Lilith decided to double down. She rose from her throne, crossing the room to stand before him. Placing a hand on his chest, she looked up at him with an expression that mingled vulnerability and love. If I've wronged you in any way, she said softly, then prove it. But you won't, because deep down, you know my loyalty lies only with you. Lucifer's expression softened, and he pulled her into an embrace. I should trust you, but I will strike you down. Lilith smiled against his chest, a victorious gleam in her eyes. But her victory was short-lived. In the distance, a faint sound echoed through the palace, a slip of paper fluttering to the ground. Lucifer's head snapped up and he stepped back, his eyes narrowing once more. What was that? What was what? Lilith's mind raced. She cursed herself for being careless. The note Azrael had left earlier. She had meant to destroy it, but had been distracted. And if Lucifer found it, I'll check, she said it quickly, her voice steady despite the rising panic. Before he could protest, she vanished into the shadows, moving swiftly through the corridors. She found the note in a forgotten alcove, its damning contents scrawled in Azrael's bold handwriting. Without hesitation, she burned it to ash. By the time she returned to the throne room, Lucifer was seated, his suspicions seemingly forgotten. She walked over to him, draping herself across his lap. See, she whispered, placing a kiss on his neck. Nothing but the wind. Lucifer nodded with a distant expression. Lilith knew she had narrowly escaped, but she also knew that Lucifer's trust, once shaken, was not easily restored. As the night wore on, they sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. For Lilith, it was a reminder of the delicate balance she maintained, a dance on the edge of a blade. She was a master of deception, but even masters have their limits. In the shadows, far from Lucifer's gaze, she allowed herself a small, wicked smile. For now, her secret was safe, but the game was far from over. The town of Black Hollow was a quiet place, the kind where secrets festered in silence. People prided themselves on appearances, maintaining a facade of perfection while darkness churned beneath the surface. At the center of it all was Judith Malvern, the town's beauty queen whose charm and elegance had always been her most powerful weapons. But Judith had a secret, the mirror's voice. Every morning, Judith would stand before an ornate antique mirror, an heirloom she'd inherited from a distant relative. The frame was carved with grotesque figures, their hollow eyes staring into nothingness. To Judith, it was beautiful, a piece of history that only she could truly appreciate. At first, the mirror's whispers were faint, like a breeze brushing against her ear. She thought it was her imagination, but the longer she stood there, the clearer the voice became. Looking good, Judith, but you could look better. The words sent a chill down her spine. She blinked, staring at her reflection. It stared back, but something was off. Her reflection's smile was just a little too wide, its eyes glinting with a malice she couldn't place. Who's there? Judith whispered. Friend, the voice purred. I can help you stay perfect, but perfection comes at a price. The descent begins. At first, Judith tried to ignore it. She focused on her beauty routine, applying layers of foundation, meticulously styling her hair. But no matter how hard she worked, the whispers returned. That's not enough, Judith. They're starting to notice. You're fading. Judith began seeing imperfections that weren't there. Fine lines around her eyes, dullness in her once lustrous hair. Her confidence wavered, and with it, the pedestal on which the town had placed her. Then came the suggestion. There's a way to fix this. You've seen her, haven't you? Emily Barker. Her beauty, her youth. Take it, and it will be yours. Judith recoiled. The thought was unthinkable. But the mirror persisted, its voice growing more insistent with each passing day. She admires you. She trusts you. One cut is all it takes. The first kill, Judith invited Emily over one evening under the pretense of a beauty tutorial. Emily, ever eager to learn from her idol, arrived with a bright smile and a heart full of admiration. As they laughed and chatted, Judith felt the weight of the knife hidden in her vanity drawer. Her hands trembled, but the mirror's voice was soothing now, almost gentle. Do it, Judith. She'll thank you for it. The room was filled with the scent of lavender candles and the hum of soft music. Emily sat in front of the mirror, oblivious to the danger. Judith stood behind her, hands trembling as she raised the knife. I'm sorry, she whispered. Emily's eyes widened in shock as Judith plunged the blade downward. The struggle was brief, the silence that followed deafening. Blood pooled on the floor, staining the pristine white carpet. Judith's reflection smiled, its eyes alight with triumph. Now you're looking good, Judith, but you'll need more. A spiral of darkness. The murders continued. One by one, Judith lured her victims under the guise of friendship, of beauty tips and makeovers. Each time the mirror praised her, its whispers filling her with a twisted sense of accomplishment. But with each kill, Judith felt herself slipping further into madness. The mirror's reflection began to change. Her face looked sharper, her eyes darker, her smile more sinister. It was as if the mirror was feeding off her actions, growing stronger with each life she took. The town was gripped with fear. Rumors spread of a killer, a phantom who struck without warning. But no one suspected Judith. How could they? She was the picture of perfection, her beauty untouched by the horrors surrounding her. Still, the mirror wasn't satisfied. They're starting to talk, Judith. You're slipping. You know what to do. The final showdown. One stormy night, Judith stood before the mirror, her face pale and gaunt. Lightning illuminated the room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. I won't. The mirror laughed, a low, guttural sound that made her skin crawl. You don't have a choice, Judith. Perfection is a prison, and you've locked yourself inside. Suddenly, the reflection moved independently, its grin widening to an unnatural degree. The glass shimmered, and the reflection stepped out, a living doppelganger dripping with malice. No! Judith screamed, backing away. The doppelganger advanced, knife in hand. Only one of us gets to look good, Judith. The struggle was brief, but violent. Judith fought with everything she had, but the doppelganger was relentless. When the storm finally passed, only one figure remained standing. The next morning, Judith Malvern walked through Black Hollow, her beauty as radiant as ever. But her eyes were hollow, devoid of life.